Hello everyone, this is a Cinema 4D tutorial that will introduce the software and talk about using 3D type. All right, so let's begin. First thing I'm going to suggest is to alter our interface to make things a little bit easier, especially if you're looking up other tutorials online. This is the new interface for Cinema 4D, and I'm going to switch us to the old one. So to do that, go up to the top right menu, this little tab here, and click the button so it shows to the left. Then go over to where it says standard and click on that. So this interface is more like what you'll find in most common tutorials that are out there. All right, so let's begin. Here in the middle, we have our viewport where we can see our model in multiple views. On the right side, we have our objects manager in the top right. Below that, we have our attributes manager. And then finally down below, we have our materials manager. So to begin, we can pop in a model and see how to navigate. This menu with the cube, if you click and hold it down, you'll see a pop-up menu and you can select any of these primitive objects. These are parametric objects that can be altered at any time. So if we bring in a cube, for example, at any time, we can alter the size, scale, segments, any of these things down in the attributes manager. So for example, if I wanted to elongate it along the Y, I could increase this numerically, or I could grab these little yellow handlebars and shrink and grow it like that. The navigation system up on the top right is as follows. If we use the hand, we click and hold it down. You can drag left, right, up and down with the mouse clicked down, and you can move throughout your scene. The next button is the zoom or scale camera. If you zoom in, click and hold it down, you can navigate up and down to scale in and out of your scene. And finally, there is the camera orbit, which allows you to click and hold it down and move around your scene. Now it's going to move according to whatever model you have selected. In this case, we only have one, so we're moving around the cube. Finally, if we, let's change this parameter, there we go. So if we click this toggle view here, it will open up 4 different viewpoints. We have our perspective view on the left, we have our top view on the right, below that we have a front view, and the right side we have, or the left side here we have the right. So this allows you to move and navigate your model in any of these viewports, but all affects the same sort of formation. Okay, let's go back to perspective view and let's talk a little bit about some of the tools that we have to use. If you click up here, this is the move tool, which you can move arbitrarily by grabbing anywhere. You can move by the arrows along each one of these. So if I just want to move along the X or just along the Y, you can do that. Or if I'm pitched a little bit above, if you see this triangle, this indicates the X and the Z will move, but the Y will stay permanent. So if I click this, then I can move it around, but the Y won't move at all. Similarly, if I move this, the X and the Y will move, but not the Z. So this allows you to do more calculated movements as well. Next, we have our scale tool, which you can, with a parametric object and you scale, it will do it proportionally, right? It's keeping the ratio, but scaling it larger or smaller. If you have an object that is not parametric, you will be able to scale individual sides. So X, Y, or Z encoded in that. Finally, you have the rotate tool, which you can rotate again arbitrarily, which can get a little tricky. Hit Command Z to undo, or you can grab individual bars, which indicate the X, Y, or Z. So if I just want to spin it along the Y, I can click this green bar and rotate it only along the Y. Finally, you can make any adjustments down here below. The first one is scale. Second one is position, rotation, and position, rotation, and scale. All right. So if I want to zero this back to the 0 marker, I can just hit 0, 0, 0, return, and it'll snap back to that 0 motion. I've moved it a few degrees along the Y, 31.4. If I zero this back out, it will bring it back to that motion as well. Okay, so that's our basic navigation. For this project, we're going to be working with type. So I want to introduce how to use that. I could erase this. I could just click it and delete it. I could also hide it by clicking this check mark, and that will make it not visible. It's still there, but it's not visible. I don't need this model anymore, so I'm just going to hit delete and start from scratch. So we're going to use some text, and to do so, we have a few hidden menus here. They're a little nondescript. This one, which will pop up as cloner, you click and hold it down, you will find this text tool. There's two different types of text, so don't get confused here. This one actually looks like it's in perspective and has dimension, which is what we want. The other one you might find is here, which will be this text spline. That one works, but it adds an extra step. So let's just use this one under the cloner feature. It'll be much easier. Now, when you bring in the text object, it's going to automatically give you the word text in perspective, which is helpful because you can see where it's located. Now, we can do a few things with this. First of all, under the tab in Attributes Manager that says Text Spline, we can change the type, right? So I can use the word remember, perhaps, and if I click outside of the window, that word will appear. Now it's oriented on the left, so I have to pan pretty far to be able to see this in total and zoom out a bit, right? If I wanted to add another line, I could hit return and do another one, all right? This will orient it in that sort of orientation. It can be difficult to navigate this in terms of how it's spaced, so you may want to do a separate one for that. In terms of the alignment, we can go down below and we can click middle alignment, and that is going to put the central axis in the middle of this total piece, right? You can see that. Or we can right justify, left justify, depending on how you want to do it. You can also adjust horizontal spacing. You can make this go out and in, which can be helpful, and vertical spacing too. So how close or how far we are from that. Let's see if we can do negative 20. Oh, not negative there. So again, that spacing is kind of fixed. If you wanted the me to be closer, you could make a new text and have multiple ones going. So why don't we do that? Let's get rid of me and make a new one. So let's just do another one. We're going to write this one as me. Okay, and we will make it middle justified. And now I'm going to grab this move tool, bring it down, and there you have something a little bit more in line with itself. Okay. You can also adjust the height, so how big this is. So you might want to make it more dominant. Right, so it fits like this a little bit tighter. That can be a great way to sort of add a combination of text forms, thinking about scale and its relationship. So we can scale that a little bit, and let's just move it over. Up. The other thing we can do is we can adjust the depth. So this is very thin depth right now. If we increase this, we can make it tight. We should be able to type in more. Let's do 2000. Okay, that one's 2000. Let's make this one 2000. Okay, and now we have a similar depth. Again, with any of these things, you can work with the scale, position, and rotation. You may want to have a different rotation. That may be, interesting way to break things up. It all depends on how you want this form to come together. But the basic elements of creating type, three-dimensional type, adding those different dimensions. Oh, and then finally, we can also change the font. So you should have a wide arrangement of font that you can choose from. I'm just going to choose Helvetica for that one, and let's make it for both of these. It's showing up very, very tiny on my screen, so I apologize for that. It typically does it much larger. There we go. Oh, that one didn't end up as Helvetica. There we go. Okay, so there's Helvetica, and we've got this monumental remember me sort of form. Okay, so that is the basics there. Oh, when you're finished mocking something up, I do recommend saving. If you want to go ahead and save project as, it's going to save it as a Cinema 4D file. I do recommend when you're working with any project in Cinema 4D to create a new folder. I'll just call this Remember Me. Okay, and then add all of your files. Okay, and this will be your photo files, your photosphere files, any of those sort of things that you're working on into the folder. It's going to save paths to those other assets, and you want to make sure everything is in one folder. So save that, and we're ready to go. Okay, next video, we are going to talk a little bit about working with photo compositing. So we'll take this Remember Me, we'll bring it into a scene, and we'll talk about how to work with it further. All right, so that's all for this one. Get to the next one soon.